Welcome aboard the dark waters of the Night Crew podcast, where true crime meets the unknown. Each month we dive into the eerie, the unsolved, and the stories that haunt the shadows. If it's creepy, mysterious, or just plain unsettling, you'll find it here. So light your lantern, step onto the deck, and prepare to uncover what lies beneath the surface.
This podcast contains discussions of true crime, disturbing content, and mature themes that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is strongly advised. The Night Crew podcast aims to present stories with respect to the victims and their families, and the intent is never to sensationalize tragedy, but to shed light on the unknown and unexplained. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 21 of The Night Crew. Today, we're taking a journey deep into the canals of Xochimilco, Mexico City. A place where the water is calm, but nothing else is. And just before I begin everything, a lot of these words, a lot of the names are in Spanish, and I'm trying my hardest to pronounce them correctly. I had to spell it out. So pardon me if I don't say it right, just know I'm trying. But regardless, the Island of Dolls is a place where the dead whisper and where hundreds and hundreds of dolls watch your every movement with blank, cracked eyes. This is not a legend built over centuries. It began with one man, a man who claimed he heard a dead girl's voice calling to him from the darkness. Today, we unravel the chilling story of the Island of the Dolls. Stay close and don't fall into the water. And I actually just watched a YouTube video about these paranormal investigators going to the Island of the Dolls, and they got a lot of activity there. I wish I could say I can go there one day. I don't know if I ever will, but it'd be really cool to see. Also really creepy, but I would go during the day. Let's just say that. So, Xochimilco, Mexico is famous for its colorful boats, floating vendors, music, and celebrations. Tourists come to ride the trajineras, which are huge decorated boats that glide across ancient Aztec canals. But once you drift away from the party routes, the water becomes still, the air changes, and miles of vegetation close in around you. Locals will tell you the canals hold old spirits, older than Mexico City itself. Some travelers describe seeing shadows moving along the shoreline. Others report the feeling of being watched long before they even see the dolls. But before the dolls, before the tourists, before the legend, there was Don Julián. Now, he is the man behind the island. Don Julián was born in 1921 in Mexico, and the exact town is unclear since the records are limited, so I can't tell you what town he was born in, but he was born in Mexico. He grew up in a traditional, rural, religious household. People often described him as quiet, sensitive, introverted, and deeply spiritual, even as a child. He believed strongly in evil spirits, miracles, signs from nature, Catholic saints, in the existence of the supernatural. Multiple relatives stated he was nerviosa, a term used often for people who were emotionally sensitive or spiritually receptive. People who knew him described him as very moral and disciplined. He worked a lot with plants. He was considered a natural caretaker. He did not like violence or conflict, and he was extremely superstitious. He believed spirits could attach to objects, and he spoke about visions all throughout his life. He believed spirits of the dead lingered around water. One of his relatives said he believed dolls had souls once loved by children. That's why he treated them like living things. Why did he become a hermit? He moved to the island in the early 1950s after a personal crisis. There are 3 local versions of why he moved there. A failed relationship. Some say he was heartbroken after a woman left him, and he believed living closer to nature would heal him spiritually. And the other version is religious devotion. He felt called to withdraw from society to become closer to God in the spirit world. And then there was mental exhaustion. Relatives suggested that he simply wanted silence, away from stress and people. Regardless of the reason, he chose a nearly isolated life on a chinampa in Xochimilco. The part most people don't know, he did not only hang dolls for the drowned girl, and I will talk more about her. Over time, Don Julián believed more than one spirit was on the island of the dolls. So why did he hang so many dolls in the island? It wasn't just for the girl. He said the dolls calmed the children, distracted the woman in the tree, kept the shadow at bay, and protected him from the man in the water. Each doll was placed with intention, a silent guardian to keep these spirits from getting too close. This explains why the island became so overwhelming with dolls over time. By the 1980s, he told family he felt several presences, including, like I said earlier, the woman in the tree, a man near the water, children by the shore, and the girl in the canal. He said the dolls weren't all for the girl again. They were for all the spirits who wandered without homes. These details mostly come from interviews with his nephew, Anastasio, neighbors who visit him, local oral folklore, or statements Don Julián made himself. So here's everything known about the other ghosts. And I do have the Spanish names for these, but I really don't want to butcher them. So we're going to start with the woman in the tree. This is what Don said about her. Don Julián told his nephew there was a female spirit who stayed high in the branches of a ceiba tree near the center of the island. He described her as watching him from above, silent but with heavy sadness, draped like fabric in the tree limbs, present mostly at dusk and afraid of the water. What she wanted? He believed she watched over him, but not out of affection, more like a guardian with no emotion. She never spoke, but he said she made the leaves move in patterns that he learned to interpret as warnings. Locals believe this was the spirit of a woman who died in the canals long before Don Julián ever arrived. The man in the water. This spirit frightened Don Julián the most. So the description of the man in the water, he was a male presence that stayed beneath the surface. He was cold, heavy, and pulling. He only approached the shore at night, and he made the water ripple without wind. And didn't like the dolls or him. He was not the most friendly doll or spirit, I should say. So encounters with him, several times Don Julián claimed he is the one who whispers from under the canal. This entity allegedly tried to lure him toward the water at night, especially during storms or when he was emotionally distressed. Some locals think this spirit represents an old Aztec water deity, a collective imprint of many drowned souls, or an echo of Don Julián's own fear of dying in the canal. Regardless, this entity is often blamed for Don Julián's eventual drowning. The little children. These weren't the same as the drowned girl. He believed multiple child spirits played on the island, and this is how he described them. He said they ran near the edges of the island, they tugged on his pant legs, they giggled in the morning, they moved things around his garden, and they loved the dolls. He never said they were dangerous. He actually seemed comforted by them at first. But over time, he became unsettled because he insisted they multiply every year. Some believed these were the spirits of children who drowned in the canals over the last century. Drownings in Xochimilco were historically common and often undocumented. The shadow figure. This was the entity he mentioned the least. Don Julián saw a shadow moving between the trees. No form, no face, and it was taller than a man. He only appeared when he was alone at night and never made a sound. Don claimed the shadow never interacted directly, but watched him. Don's nephew, his nephew said Don Julián believed this one was not human, but something older than Xochimilco. This is where a lot of the island's darker theories come from. The Whisperers, not full spirits. Toward the end of his life, Don Julián said he heard voices that didn't belong to any of the known spirits. He described them as speaking from the reeds, whispering words that he couldn't understand, coming from multiple directions at once, and they grew louder at night. He never identified them as individual ghosts, more like the canals themselves were alive. This is where the line between paranormal and psychological blurs, but it is a part of the legend. Stories from his nephew, the most important source. His nephew, Anastasio, visited often and inherited the island after Don Julián's death. His nephew said his uncle, Don Julián, heard whispers for decades. He claimed voices called his name, mostly at night. He said his uncle believed the dolls absorb negative energy. He said, "They protect me from the spirits that wander." Don, he spoke to the dolls, not in a playful way, but in a ritualistic, serious manner. He asked them to protect the island. Don Julián believed the girl asked for more dolls regularly. This is why he collected hundreds. His religious spiritual mix. So Don blended Catholic, Mexican folk magic, indigenous beliefs, and his own personal beliefs all together. Like I said, it was a religious spiritual mix that he had. He prayed constantly, and he believed the dolls acted as spirit vessels. He also believed that items found in water carried strong spiritual energy. So, did he really find a drowned girl while he was there? This is heavily debated. Possibility 1, it happened. Locals say drownings were common and rarely documented. Possibility 2, Don imagined it. Several of his relatives hinted he may have had auditory hallucinations, deep-seated anxiety, and possible untreated mental health struggles. But even if the girl was imaginary, his fear and devotion were very, very real. The final years. In the 1990s, Don became more paranoid. He told people, "The spirits want me. The girl is lonely again. The dolls are waking up." Don told his nephew shortly before his death, "Soon I will join the girl." He passed away in 2001 in the exact canal where he said the girl drowned. His nephew, Anastasio, said, "For him, the circle was complete." And then I put some unusual facts few people know in here. Maybe you do know it, maybe not. I still thought it was fun to put in. So Don kept a favorite doll, and he named it Augustina, and it was placed in a shrine-like spot. He spoke to her more than any other. He refused to cut certain trees. He believes specific trees house spirits. And 3, he never threw away dolls. Even the most damaged ones were alive to him. He grew vegetables and said the dolls helped protect the crops. He believed their presence kept away negative energies. And he rarely left the island. Some years, he stayed isolated for months on end. Unexplained deaths and cursed incidents on the island of the dolls. So the original one, Don Julián's death. The original Curse Echo. So like I said, he passed away in 2001 by drowning in the canal. This is the most famous death tied to that island. But here's what makes it chilling. He died in the exact same spot where he claimed the drowned girl died, as I mentioned earlier. He had spent the previous month telling his nephew that the spirits were calling him. Hours before his death, he told family he heard singing under the water. His body showed no sign of struggle, but he was known to be afraid of deep water. His nephew reported that Don Julián looked peaceful, as if he followed something willingly. Locals say the island claimed him. More interesting, several mediums insist the moment he died, the doll's energy changed, as if he became one of the spirits. The next one is the fisherman who was pulled under. The year was in the mid-1990s, but there's multiple variations. And there were 3 local men that witnessed this. Before Don Julián died, a fisherman reportedly drowned near the island while collecting reeds. The strange part, his friends said they saw his body get dragged sideways, not downward. He wasn't tangled in weeds, he wasn't unconscious, he was pulled toward the darker part of the canal, where even today the water is unusually cold. And it's always warm in this place. I looked up the temperature today and it's 70 degrees. And here in Ohio in December, it's 20 degrees and snowing. So that's a weird thing to happen. And locals believe this is the part of the man of the water spirit Don Julián feared. They believe it was him that did it. The doll that predicted a death. This one is lesser known but widely whispered among boat drivers. A young man visited the island with friends. He joked about the dolls, kicked one of them, and posed for a picture, holding one by the hair. As they were leaving, the boat driver swears the doll he kicked shifted to face the canal. 3 days later, the man was found dead in a different canal in Xochimilco. The cause was drowning, circumstances unknown. The connection, the photo never developed. The film was blank. Locals believe the doll marked him. The Curse of the Three Tourists. The year was approximately 2005, and this was told by multiple guides. Three tourists from Spain stole a doll head, a small wooden cross, and one of the handmade offerings. According to local lore, within 1 month, tourist number 1 had a severe car accident. Tourist number 2 developed unexplained paralysis in her left arm, and tourist number 3 died by suicide. All 3 reportedly had reoccurring nightmares in which a woman dripping water whispered their name. Locals believe this was Augustina, the guardian doll spirit, punishing the theft. The missing girl incident. Not a confirmed death, but still terrifying. A young girl aged 7 to 9 years old went missing on the island around the late 1990s during a family trip. Her parents panicked. Searchers combed the area. She turned up hours later, sitting calmly below a tree, holding a doll no one recognized. When asked where she got it, she said, "The lady in the tree gave it to me." This lines up with sightings of the woman in the tree. The silent female spirit Don Julián said lived in the branches of the tree. No one saw the girl walk to that spot. There were no footprints, no signs of struggle, no logical explanation. The doll she held is still somewhere on the island. The boatman who lost his voice. One of the most respected trajineras drivers suddenly lost his voice after shouting at a group of people vandalizing the island. He claims a doll at eye level turned and shushed him. He had no medical issues, no trauma, no reason for sudden mutism. His voice returned exactly 21 days later, the number often associated with Mexican spiritual cycles. He refuses to take tourists to the island even today. The Shadow Man Death. A lesser known but deeply unsettling account. A small-time thief attempted to stay overnight on the island, planning to steal valuable items left as offerings. He told friends he kept seeing a tall shadow moving between the trees. The same entity Don Julián called La Sombra. The next morning, the thief was found dead on the boat, not on the island. Cause of death, a massive heart attack. His body posture? According to the boat owner, he looked like he died while running from something. There were no footprints on the island itself. The offerings that bring bad luck. This is a quieter curse, but widely reported. If you take an offering left near the shrine doll, people say your relationships fracture, you lose money, electronics malfunction, you can experience vivid nightmares of dolls staring at you, and usually accidents happen within 30 days. It's considered one of the strictest supernatural rules of the island. Even skeptics won't touch the offerings. The ghost voice that caused a fainting. A paranormal investigator described hearing a woman whisper directly in her ear, "Don't enter." She fainted immediately. Medical tests showed nothing. The audio equipment near her picked up the whisper, but the voice sounded mechanical, metallic, layered. Some believe this was the offering collector doll, or Augustina, or even Don Julián warning her. Paranormal encounters on the Island of the Dolls. These are very interesting and quite scary, I will admit. Dolls will move without wind. This is one of the most frequently reported phenomena. Visitors have seen arms lifting slightly, heads turning, legs swinging when the rest of the dolls are perfectly still, or even dolls twisting to face a new direction between one glance and the next. Tour guides swear it happens most around the central shrine, where Don Julián placed his first doll. Many describe the motion as intentional, not random. One visitor said the dolls weren't swaying, they were adjusting themselves. Whispering and soft voices. Multiple groups have reported hearing whispers, faint child laughter, a girl calling, I think it's Ben, or that means come, footsteps on dry soil, humming or dragging sounds near the water. These sounds often happen when the island is otherwise silent. No boats, no wind. EVP recordings have captured quiet phrases in Spanish, the sound of a girl crying, breathy giggling near the microphone, or rhythmic tapping, like fingernails on wood. So EVP is electronic voice phenomena. You can use your phone for it or a device, EVP device. And I've used it before at haunted locations. You just sit in silence and you start the recording. Go home, listen to it later, and you might pick up some sounds you couldn't hear in person, but it caught it on the recording. And then we have the girl in the canal sightings. Visitors and tour guides claim to have seen a small girl's reflection in the water. Ripples shaped like footprints, a silhouette just beneath the surface, or a white figure darting between reeds. Some swear they heard splashing and cries for help, echoing Don Julián's original story. One local woman said, "I was taking a picture and saw a girl standing near the shore. When I looked up, she wasn't there." This is the island's most famous ghost. The dark shape under the water. This is connected to El Hombre del Agua, the spirit Don Julián feared most. Many visitors reported a dark shape moving against the current, something brushing their legs when sitting in a boat, bubbles rising in a perfect circle, or the feeling of being watched from underwater. Fishermen refuse to go near the island at night because they've seen silhouettes pacing just below the surface. Some believe it's a water spirit, others believe it's the girl. Still others believe it's something older. The children running phenomenon. Several tour guides swear that groups hear running footsteps, light tapping on the walls of the hut, or giggles coming from behind the trees. Yet no children are on the island. One paranormal YouTube team, off record, reported, "We saw a child-sized shadow sprint between two trees. It was solid, not a trick of light." Don Julián claimed these spirits multiplied over time. Objects moving at night. People staying overnight, which is rare, but some investigators have witnessed dolls shifting position, tools moved away from where they were placed, boards creaking as if stepped on, fruit falling from trees after midnight, or candles relighting themselves. One investigator said he placed a doll face down on the table for an experiment and woke to find it propped upright, staring at him. the shadow that follows you. Many visitors report a tall, thin shadow figure moving between the trees. Descriptions include that it's unusually tall, it has no face, it glides rather than walks, it stands near the main hut, and it watches from a distance. This usually occurs around sunset. A tourist described it as it was like someone standing beside a tree, but the shadow was thicker than the tree. This aligns perfectly with Don Julián's descriptions. And now we will go into the haunted dolls people refuse to touch. Certain dolls have reputations. So who is Augustine? Augustine, sometimes spelled differently, doesn't matter how you spell it, still Augustine, is the name used by some guides and tourists to refer to a specific doll near Don Julián's hut, often described as wearing tattered children's clothing, having dark tangled hair. It's positioned near the entrance or the main display area, and it is said to be tied to the spirit of a little boy named Augustine, who drowned near the island decades ago. This doll is typically associated with child laughter, tugging sensations, movement of its head, protective energy rather than malicious energy, and this is not the shrine doll that accepts offerings. The doll with the missing eye, which a lot of them have missing eyes, but this one is located near the main hut doorway. Why she's famous? She's the most photographed and most reported to move on her own. Reported activity consists of her head has been seen turning to follow people. Her remaining eye reportedly glints or focuses on visitors, and some swear they saw her lips part slightly, like she was trying to speak, and visitors feel a sensation like someone small standing behind them. Don Julián's belief? He said this doll was the drowned girl's favorite vessel, and that the spirit rested in her most often. The Guardian doll with no hands. Location at the far end of the island where the water is darkest. Why she's feared? Don Julián placed her there on purpose as protection. Reported activity consists of people hearing footsteps behind them when walking past. The doll is sometimes found in a new position, though no one touched her. Visitors report a feeling of being grabbed at the ankle near her. Some experience overwhelming dread until they leave the area. The legend is this doll is said to repel a darker entity in the water, possibly the spirit Don Julián believed tried to lure him in to drown. The one missing its jaw. Visitors have fainted near it. One woman vomited after hearing a growl behind it. The black-haired doll with the split face. Location hanging beside the main shrine area. Why she's avoided? She is associated with Don Julián's last days. Reported activity. Apparently, her head rotates slowly during the night. Cameras aimed at her often malfunction or shut off. Many visitors report seeing a shadow behind her in photos, and a few claim her mouth opens wider than physically possible. That's terrifying. The local belief is she's connected to the shadow figure Don Julián claimed watched him. Some say she's a vessel for something non-human. The laughing baby doll. Location in a small boat near the entrance. Why she stands out? Visitors report auditory phenomena around her. The reported activity is people hear a faint baby laugh in the reeds near her. The sound moves as if circling. Boat drivers claim she rocks slightly when no one has touched her. Many feel a sudden cold breeze while passing. And the theory is some believe the laughing isn't joy, it's mimicking to lure in attention. The green dress doll, considered the most active. Location is close to Don Julián's original garden. Why she's infamous? Many mediums say this doll holds multiple spirits. The reported activity: she is said to speak in a woman's voice during EVP sessions. Visitors see her arm lifted, then lowered later. There's a strong smell of flowers or decaying plants that appears around her. People report feeling like someone is standing right beside them. And Don Julián's final comment about her was, he told his nephew shortly before his death, "She doesn't want me to leave." The doll with red hair, rumored to have been made from a child's hair. People claim it buzzes like a fly. The doll with the crossed arms. She is located in a hidden corner on the island. Why she's disturbing? No one ever placed her arms that way. They always return to the cross position. Her activity consists of her arms being uncrossed, then they recross on their own. Some visitors hear a shh sound around her. Paranormal teams report EMF, electromagnetic field, spikes only near this doll. Sensitive people feel like something is protecting or warning them. The red ribbon doll. She is located hung high in a tree tied with faded red fabric. Why she stands out? Locals believe she belonged to another drowned child. So her activity, the ribbons flutter even with no wind. People hear soft crying near the stall specifically. Boat operators say she sometimes looks angry, with the head tilted differently each time. EVP recordings near her often pick up a child's whisper or the word mama. Don Julián's story: he said the red ribbon doll acted like a beacon, calling in other child spirits. The doll that collects offerings. This one is located on the shrine. So this is the one that has a shrine that collects offerings. And the shrine has candles, photos, and other small gifts people may leave for her. In the behavior, items move around only near her. The activity reported would be that coins appear in her lap, candles shift positions near her, offerings rearrange overnight, and she seems to take and keep certain items. Many believe she is one of the few spirits on the item that is not malevolent, just active. So who is Augustina? Augustina is believed to be one of the oldest, heaviest, and most spiritually charged dolls on the item. Her name comes from Don Julián himself. He reportedly referred to her as Augustina, saying she felt like an older female spirit, not a child. She is often associated with adult female energy, protection and discipline, interference with other spirits, and guarding the central area of the island. She is not the shrine doll who accepts offerings, but many visitors confuse them because both are tied to female spirits. So what does Augustina look like? Descriptions vary slightly, but most agree she has a damaged face with one eye clouded. She has long, dark, or matted hair and a heavy body and stiff limbs. She's wearing a faded dress or torso covering, and she's in a posture that seems alert. She's usually found near the main pathways, hanging or sitting in a spot where visitors must pass. What Augustina is believed to do. She's believed to protect the island from darker spirits. Several guides claim that Don Julián believed Augustina acted like a guardian, keeping the shadow figure, the man in the water, and more aggressive energy from getting too close. Visitors sensitive to energy say they feel like she's standing in front of them, blocking something. She interferes with other dolls' activity. This is unusual. She doesn't just react, she affects how other dolls behave. People report less movement near her, dolls around her seeming quieter, and fewer negative encounters in her vicinity, almost like her presence calms or overpowers the others. Augustina emits a strong presence, almost human-like. Visitors commonly describe sensations such as being watched, being measured, and feeling a woman's presence behind them. Psychics say her energy feels older and mature, not like a child. She causes sudden temperature drops, particularly around dusk. People report cold drafts, goosebumps, and a heavy motherly presence. Some believe she's warning or guiding visitors. She attracts female spirits. Multiple mediums insist the island's female entities gravitate toward her, which fits Don Julián's belief that she was a gatherer or anchor for feminine energy. This is completely different from Augustine, who is tied to child spirits. So is Augustina the offering collector? No, but they are very similar, which is why people mix them up. So Augustina is the guardian, adult female, protective, and strong-willed. The shrine doll is an offering collector. She's maternal and invites gifts. Augustine is the child spirit doll. 3 different dolls with 3 different energies. Don Julián's quote about Augustina. One of the most chilling lines attributed to him. Augustina watches them so they don't get too close. Some guides believe he meant the other spirits. Others think he meant humans. The forbidden corner of the island. Tour guides avoid one area and often will not take tourists there. Encounters include sudden nausea, dizziness, overwhelming dread, hearing "get out," dolls spinning in circles, and EMF spikes. Some say this is where Don Julián felt the shadow lived. Others believe it's where he buried items he used in personal rituals. Nighttime encounters, the worst ones. People who have illegally stayed overnight reported the most intense activity. They say they hear dolls whispering together, footsteps circling the hut, something pulling on clothing. They claim they see a girl standing at the water, or dolls turning their heads to face the intruders. One man ran screaming after he saw a doll stand up on its own and topple forward. The island is said to be 10 times more active after 3 a.m., especially outdoors. Other known facts. The island isn't actually an island. This surprises many people. The island is actually a chinampa, a hand-built floating garden from the Aztec era. Chinampas are held together with old roots and clay, and they shift often. This matters because spirits in Aztec lore latch onto rooted earth. And moving ground creates liminal space, a hotspot for hauntings, and it's one of the few places where living and dead land overlap. This adds a supernatural logic to the haunting. Now, Don Julián didn't start hanging dolls out of fear, but out of devotion. Early on, Don Julián believed the drowned girl was not trapped, but lonely. He hung dolls so she would feel comfort, companionship, and dignity in death. Only later did he realize other spirits were coming too. The island has a dead zone where electronics shut off. There's a specific area described as a dark, muddy section on the far side where cameras shut off, phones die, flashlights flicker, and EVPs become distorted. Paranormal teams call this the dead zone, and some believe it's where the shadow man manifests. Even skeptics acknowledge the electromagnetic disturbance. The island's hauntings match Aztec ghost lore almost perfectly. Mexican historians point out that Don Julián describes spirits that align with ancient beliefs. These names are difficult to pronounce, but I will try my best. The woman in the tree matches Cihuateteo, spirits of women who died tragically. The waterman matches Ahuizotl, a water creature said to drown humans and drag them sideways. The children's spirits match Chaneque, which are mischievous childlike spirits who protect nature. This means Don Julián may have been experiencing indigenous entities, not just random ghosts. The dolls and spirits are not the same entities. People assume each doll contains a spirit, but locals say dolls are anchors, not vessels. Spirits can move between the dolls, and some dolls have no spiritual presence at all. Some of them hold multiple energies at once, and spirits may use a doll only temporarily. This explains why activity shifts over time. There are reports of possession-like episodes. Visitors occasionally experience sudden crying, disorientation, dizziness, personality shifts, speaking in a child's tone, or forgetting periods of time. These episodes are short and leave no long-term harm, but guides associate them with the laughing doll, the red ribbon doll, or the shrine area. And there are many unreported deaths and missing person rumors. Boat drivers whisper that at least 2 additional bodies were found in the canals over the last 30 years, but were never tied to the island officially because tourists panicked, police didn't want bad press, and drowning accidents in Xochimilco are common. No official record equals more mystery. The dolls continue changing on their own. Guides report limbs rearranged, heads turned, new dolls appearing from unknown sources, dolls disappearing entirely, and eyes clouding over with no reason. This keeps the haunting alive, literally. The island has one rule: no mocking. Multiple guides insist the island reacts aggressively to disrespect. People who mock the dolls or spirits report sudden headaches, nausea, aggressive boat rocking, dolls facing them, overwhelming dread, or nightmares afterward. Mockery is considered a trigger for the curse. I mean, this goes hand in hand. I volunteer at a haunted school. I'm a tour guide, and in the boiler room one time, one of the people that were visiting was mocking something in the boiler room. He was mocking whatever, the ghost, like, come at me, let me see you and stuff. And he was slapped in the face. You should never mock spirits because they will get pissed off and they will probably hurt you, give you nightmares, give you headaches, like all of these things that I just said. Don Julián's nephew believes the spirits didn't kill him, they took him. This is the creepiest insider detail. Anastasio has said privately, reported by locals, my uncle belonged to the island. The spirits didn't end him, they brought him home. He truly believes Don Julián became part of the island's spiritual hierarchy, which is why many mediums claim to sense a male presence, older, calm, and watching over everything. Not hostile, but definitely there. In the end, the Island of the Dolls is more than a haunted attraction, more than a morbid curiosity, more than 100 rotting faces staring from the trees. It is a place where belief and fear, obsession and devotion, the living and the dead all blur together. For 50 years, Don Julián lived here alone among the dolls. Not because he wanted silence, but because he believed he was not alone. He believed there were spirits in the branches, in the water, in the shadows between the trees, and that the dolls kept them calm, or trapped, or entertained, or simply acknowledged. Whatever he thought he was doing, he gave his life to it, and in the end, the island took him back. To this day, the dolls still hang exactly where he left them. Heads turned, limbs outstretched, eyes fogged over by time, yet always appearing a little too aware. Visitors swear they move when no one is looking. Boatmen refuse to mock them, and locals say the spirits that watched Don Julián now watch everyone who steps foot on the island. And whether you believe the stories or dismiss them, it's hard to ignore the pattern. Drownings, warnings, shadow figures, dolls shifting on their own, souls that don't leave, in a place that never forgets. There are islands built by nature and there are islands built by men. But the island of the dolls? It feels like something else entirely. A crossroads suspended between worlds. A place where you don't just look at the dolls. A place where the dolls might be looking back. So, before we go, from our haunted little corner of the world to yours, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to everyone. Whether you're celebrating with family, with friends, or with a few friendly ghosts of your own, we hope your holiday is peaceful, magical, and just a little bit spooky. If you enjoyed today's episode and want more deep dives into the strange, the haunted, and the unexplained, make sure to follow and subscribe to our podcast. It helps us grow, and it makes sure you never miss another story creeping out of the shadows. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and as always, thank you for listening.